So far, you've learned how to factorize by taking out a common factor, by grouping, and even by using the difference of two squares, or dots for short. Today, we're going to figure out how to factorize trinomials. I think an important first question is, well, what is a trinomial? If you remember, a monomial was an expression with one term. A binomial was an expression with two terms. So spoiler, this is going to be an expression with three terms. So just like a tricycle has three wheels, a trinomial has three terms. Now, what's special about these trinomials? It can't just be any old three-term expression. It has to have a very specific format. It has to be of the format ax squared plus bx plus c. So what I want you to know is that a and b here are just coefficients. The first one, a, is a coefficient of x squared, and b is just a coefficient of x, while c is a constant. So that doesn't have any variable attached to it. It's just a constant. Now, does it have to be x? No. It could be a number, y squared, plus a number, y, plus another number. You're going to see that throughout the examples we use here, it's always going to be of the form of a number, times a variable squared, plus b, a number, times the variable, plus a constant. So you'll see that throughout all the examples. But before we get into how to factorize this sort of thing, let's talk about something that should be a revision of work that we recently learned. Before we're going to begin with factorizing trinomials, let's try and expand this here. Here we have a binomial times by another binomial. Two terms times by two terms. I'm hoping that what's coming to mind is FOIL. The way we multiply these out is by using the FOIL method. Now, what does FOIL mean for those of you who can't remember? First terms get multiplied together. So the first one in this bracket times the first one in that bracket. X times x is x squared. Then the outer term. So the outer one times the outermost one here. X times negative 1 is negative 1x. Or if I wanted to, I could just write negative x. Then I stands for the inner terms, so that's these two. Positive 2 times x is plus 2x. And then the last terms. So positive 2 times negative 1 gives me negative 2. Now I'm going to simplify because I see some like terms going on here. So I've got x squared, then minus 1 plus 2x gives me plus 1x minus 2. So what I want you to see from this was that I started off with one term. That's the two binomials multiplied by each other. But because they're being multiplied, it's just one term. And I ended up with three terms, a trinomial of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. In fact, let's quickly decide what a, b, and c are. A is equal to the number in front of this x. And since there isn't one explicitly written, we know it's a 1. B is going to be the number in front of this x. But again, since there isn't one, we're going to know that it's a 1. And then c is going to be the constant here, which we need to remember is minus 2. We started off with one term and we ended up with 3. Now, if you remember from previous videos, we said that factorization was the opposite of expanding. Factorization was where we started with multiple terms, more than one term, and we ended up with only one. Here, we have a trinomial. So when we expanded the two binomials, we ended up with a trinomial, which means that if we factorize a trinomial, we work backwards from expanding, and we're going to end up with two binomials multiplied by each other. So here's the thing. When you're factorizing a trinomial, you're going to end up with two brackets with each of them having a binomial. So it's going to be the opposite of what we've just done in this example. So let's just jump right in with a couple of examples so that we can figure out how to do this. So let's start with our first example. We know that we're looking to get a binomial bracket times a binomial bracket. And if we have a careful look up here, we'll see that the first term in the binomial was just the variable we were dealing with. Okay, so let's do that down here. So we've got x is the variable that we're dealing with, x squared there and x there. So we're just going to pop x and x. Now, how are we going to fill in these two? First, we're going to want to identify what A, B, and C are in these examples. So A in this case, because there's no number there, is a 1. B is plus 9, and C is plus 8. Plus 8. So first step, I'm going to want to find the factors that could make up C. So I'm going to say what times what could give me C. So I'm going to start with the basic, 8 times 1, or 4 times 2. You could say negative 8 times negative 1, and negative 4 times negative 2. Because a positive times a positive will give me a positive, but a negative times a negative will also give me a positive. In step 2, we need to do something a little bit special. So I'm just going to write it here and then I'll explain it. Now it says add up to B. What on earth does that mean? We're going to look at these combinations and we're going to say, what do those numbers add up to? Well, 8 plus 1 will give me 9, which is B, so that's really helpful. So maybe if I put here positive 8 and positive 1, that will give me my factorized answer. Let's double check it, okay? So first times first, x squared, outer times outer is x, inner is 8x, and last is 8. So let's simplify this. X squared, x plus 8x is 9x plus 8. Which, look at that. It's exactly the same. Now that might have been whoa and just way too crazy. So let's go over it again one more time, just slowly. The first thing I did was I wrote down A, B, and C because it's in the format something x squared plus something x plus c. So then what times what gives me C? And I said 8 times 1 or 4 times 2 or negative 8 times negative 1 or negative 4 times negative 2. Then I'm going to look for the first set of factors that adds up to B, and B in this case was positive 9. 8 plus 1 gave me 9. So those are my answers, but let's just check the others in case. 4 plus 2 gives me 6, and that's not going to be the one. Negative 8 plus negative 1, feel free to use your calculator if you're not very comfortable, is negative 9, but I wanted positive 9. Negative 4 plus negative 2, that would give me negative 6. So the combination I want is positive 8 and positive 1. So that's what I pop in my bracket. And that is this factorized. Okay, that might seem a bit crazy, so we're going to do one more of those just like that. So step 1, let's write down our A, B, and C values. A in this case is 1, B is negative 8, and C is positive 12. Step 1, let's write out the factors or the things that multiply together will give me C. So I can say 12 times 1 or 6 times 2 or 4 times 3. Or I can say negative 12 times negative 1 or negative 6 times negative 2 or negative 4 times negative 3. Those are all my combinations. Remember, negative times a negative will give me a positive. Now, 2, I need to find which of these add up to give me B. And if I remember, B is equal to negative 8. So 12 plus 1, that's going to give me 13, so that's not it. 6 plus 2, that's going to give me positive 8, but I need a negative 8, so that's not it. 4 plus 3, that's going to mean positive 7. Negative 12 plus negative 1, that's going to give me negative 13, so that's not it. Negative 6 plus negative 2 is going to give me negative 8, so that's our 1. So all I do is I open up my two brackets, I pop the variable in, which is x, in front of both of them, and then I say, well, one of them was minus 6, and the other was minus 2. And you can check that, and you'll see that you get back to x squared minus 8x plus 12. That's kind of weird, isn't it? It's kind of cool, actually. So what I want to show you so far is this. In grade 9, you will only deal with a equals 1. If A doesn't equal 1, then there's a special thing we're going to do in grade 9, but we'll get to that in later examples. Let's do a couple more of these sorts of examples. Hang on a second. This one says m squared minus 4m minus 12. Is that still in the standard form? Yes, it is, because we've just given the variable a different name. Now, instead of having a bracket that says x and then the number, we're going to have m and then the number. Oh, that bracket looks a bit silly. Okay, so just like before, we're going to ask ourselves, what is A? I hope you can see. It's 1 again. What is B? Now we're talking minus 4 from here. Okay, and what is C? What's our constant? It's minus 12. So step 1, let's find things that multiplied together will give us C. Now be very careful, there's a negative there, which means, and know that a negative times a positive or a positive times a negative will give me a negative. So one of them is going to have to be positive and one of them is going to be negative. So let's say minus 12 times positive 1, or 12 times negative 1, maybe negative 6 times 2, or 6 times negative 2, or negative times 3, or 4 times negative 3. Let's look at our next step, which is going to be adding. We're going to add together until we get B, which is negative 4. So let's have a look. Negative 12 plus 1, that's going to give me negative 11, so that's not it. Negative 6 plus 2, hey, 6 plus 2, hey, that's negative 4. That works. So then it's going to be negative 6 and plus 2. That's it. That's factorized. Let's just double check, okay? Because we're dealing with negatives and positives, so let's FOIL this out. First times first, we've got m squared, and then outer m times positive 2 is plus 2m, and then inner negative 6 times m is negative 6m, and then the last two, negative 6 times positive 2, that would give me a negative 12. Okay, then we're going to simplify this because I see some like terms going on over here. So I've got m squared plus 2 minus 6 is going to give me minus 4m minus 12. And if you have a look here, they are identical. So this is correct. Okay, let's do one more similar one. Okay, so let's see here. X squared plus 9x minus 22, that's my standard form. I'm going to check out what A is. A is 1 again. B is going to be positive 9. And C is going to be negative 22. Okay, so step 1, let's find all the factors of C. So again, it's negative, so one of my numbers has to be positive and one has to be negative. So let's go negative 22 times 1, or 22 times negative 1. Let's try negative 11 times 2, or 11 times negative 2. I think that's it. Let's try step 2. Let's add them up. Okay. And now we're going to add them up and see what gives us a positive 9. So let's see these pairs. Negative 22 plus 1, no, that'll give me negative 21. Negative 11 plus 2, that'll give me negative 9. But am I looking for a negative 9? No, I'm looking for a positive 9. Okay? 22 minus 1, no, that'll give me 21. 11 plus negative 2, hey, that'll give me 9, that works. So then we go over here, we pop down our two brackets. What is the variable we're using? There's an x. And which are the two numbers? Well, we've got a positive 11 over there and a negative 2 over there. And that's it. That's factorized. So those are the basics of the types of factorization we can get. But let's just add one tiny layer of difficulty here. Let's move on to this example 5. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly check my A value. hang on a second, the A value is 2. In all the other examples, A has been 1. In fact, in grade 9, you can only factorize a trinomial where the A value is 1. So what are we going to do here? Well, what's really important is to always check where there's a common factor. And here's your hint. If your A value is not 1, then it's usually a common factor. So let's see, is 2 a common factor here? Yes. Is y a common factor? No, there's no y here. So let's take out this 2 as a common factor first. So I'm going to take out my common factor and open up my bracket. First term divided by 2, well, that will leave me with y squared. Then second term divided by 2, negative 6 divided by 2 will give me negative 3, and then the y's over there. Negative 56 divided by 2, well, that will give me negative 28. Okay, that's cool, but now what? Well, if I look in here, I have a trinomial, and let's look at that. A over here is 1. There we go. We can factorize that now. And B is going to be negative 3. Oopsies, forgot my equal. And then C is going to be negative 28. So let's go through our steps. What times what will give me negative 28? I'm going to start with negative 28 times 1, or 28 times negative 1. I can say negative 14 times 2, or I can say 14 times negative 2, negative 7 times 4, or 7 times negative 4. Now let's try 2, where we're adding up and we're trying to get to negative 3, which is our B value. Okay, let's go through these pairs. Negative 28 plus 1, that'll give me negative 27, that's not right. Negative 14 plus 2, that'll give me negative 12. Negative 7 plus 4, that'll give me negative 3. So I can stop looking. Now I can say, okay, factorizing this trinomial, I need to remember it'll be 2 brackets. What is my variable here? It's y. But don't forget about this 2 that you took out. You've got to add your common factor there as well. Now, what are the 2 numbers? Minus 7 and positive 4. And there it is. That is my factorized. As an exercise, if you wanted to, you could multiply this bit in red back out and see if you got 2y squared minus 6y minus 56. Spoiler, you will. Okay, so this was a bit tough, so let's try one more example similar to this one. And here I'm going to immediately say A is equal to 3, and that should be a great big red flag that actually we probably need to take out 3 as a common factor. So let's have a look. Can I take out 3 from here? Absolutely. Can I take out 3 from here? Can I take out 3 from there? Yes, I can. So let's do it. So this is actually going to be 3 and then open brackets. 3a squared divided by 3 will leave me just with a squared. Minus 15a divided by 3 will leave me with minus 5a. Minus 150 divided by 3 will leave me with minus 50. Okay, so again, we have a trinomial in here. Here, now the a is 1, the b is minus 5, and the c is minus 50. Let's go for step 1. We're finding anything we can multiply that will give us minus 50. So I'm going to start with the basics. Minus 50 times 1, or 50 times negative 1. Or maybe we could try minus 25 times 2, or 25 times negative 2. We could do negative 10 times 5, or 10 times negative 5. Alright, I think I'm pretty much done there. Let's see here. Let's try and add up to negative 5 here, because that's our minus 50 plus 1, minus 49, that's not right. Minus 25 plus 2, that'll be minus 23, that's not right. minus 10 plus 5, that'll be minus 5. So there we go. Those are our two numbers that we're looking for. So once again, don't forget to bring down this 3. So there you go. And then we have our two brackets for our binomials. And our variable this time is a. Don't get confused between these two a's, okay? And then we've got minus 10 in the first one and plus 5 in the second one. Okay, guys, and that's it. Now, there are a bunch of different types of ways that you can learn how to factorize trinomials. I find that this is the easiest way. For my class, in your textbook, you will find a different explanation on how to do it. But I find that this is the easiest. It means I make the least mistakes with my signs, and it means that I triple check everything. All right, guys, good luck.